Hello and welcome to our News 13 weather special, preparing for hurricane season 2025. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jason Boyer.
And I'm meteorologist Megan Danahay. Hurricane season is underway beginning on June 1st, 8 months after Helene brought massive destruction and death to western North Carolina.
Over the next 30 minutes, we'll look at the continuing impacts of Helene and what the experts are saying we can expect this hurricane season. We'll also look at how being prepared for these disasters can be the best defense.
Let's begin with a look at the Atlantic hurricane names for 2025. We start with Andrea and we end with Wendy.
Yeah, now a few of these names look familiar to you, I'm sure. It's because this list repeats every 6 years until a name is retired.
For example, Jason, Dexter is new this season, replacing Dorian, which was a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane that slammed into the Bahamas in 2019.
And most recently, and not surprisingly, the name Helene has been retired. It will be replaced with the name Holly when last year's name list comes around again.
And it will in about 6 years. Here's a map looking at last year's tropical systems. There were 18 named storms in all. The west coast of Florida was hit by 3 separate hurricanes. If you'll remember, Category 1 Debbie hit in early August, followed by back-to-back major hurricanes, Helene, of course, and Milton.
So what can we expect this year? NOAA released its 2025 Atlantic hurricane season forecast a few weeks ago, with Colorado State University releasing theirs back in April. Now, in a typical season, we see 14 named storms. 7 of those typically become hurricanes, with 3 major hurricanes. That's Category 3 or stronger on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Now, CSU forecasted 17 named storms for this season, 9 hurricanes and 4 major hurricanes, while NOAA has forecasted between 13 and 19 total named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, 3 to 5 of those major hurricanes. Obviously, we are expecting an above average season overall, but these forecasts do not predict how many of these storms could make landfall.
Helene was responsible for the most inland flooding deaths in the U.S. in 52 years. More than 200 people had to be rescued from rising water in North Carolina. News 13's Jennifer Emmert looks at the evacuation orders given and the heroic actions taken.
Everybody's going to have an alert trigger, like what makes you run.
A flash flood warning has been issued for your location.
As your sheriff, I'm requesting that starting tonight, you make plans or preparations to leave low-lying areas.
The triggers before Helene's fury.
Nobody in this community had seen what was coming before, so it wasn't on the alarm radar.
Allowed door knocks and alerts to move to higher ground in Buncombe, Haywood, and McDowell counties to be ignored.
Near creeks, streams, and rivers are strongly encouraged to relocate.
On September 27th, mandatory evacuations along Highway 70 in Swannanoa came as power and phone service failed, activating Task Force 11.
This is the 3rd wave of evacuation attempts. All of these homes that you see in these videos are gone. They were all washed away during the flood. So I very seriously doubt many of these people would have survived.
Others forced to use any means necessary to save their lives.
That's one of the hardest things, is to ask someone to leave their home.
Under North Carolina's Emergency Management Act, the governor and local authorities can act.
There is statutes that say that counties and municipalities can issue, voluntary or mandatory evacuations.
But first responders can't force someone to go. Those who stay can face misdemeanor charges leading to an arrest. Yancey County chose not to order evacuations. Instead, it opened shelters, barricaded highways, and issued a curfew. Per capita, Yancey County's death rate was the highest in the state.
The loss of life is something that all of us, even as firefighters, we just, it sticks with you for a long time. We're still going to meet the other family members in the community that lost someone.
Which is why emergency responders urge, when you're asked to evacuate, listen.
Don't wait till that very last minute to decide.
The earlier you heed the warning, the better, after Helene rearranged the landscape.
With the landslides now, we don't know, afternoon thunderstorm's not going to have this big rush of water come down that, because there's no trees or grass or anything there to slow that water down.
Emergency officials say after a heavy rain, if you spot flooding where it doesn't typically occur, you should call 911. In Swannanoa, I'm Jennifer Emmert.
Coming up a little bit later in this broadcast, we're going to show you how easy it is to have a kit ready so you can leave when time matters most. Every Western North Carolina county has their own alert system for evacuation information, and we've made it easy for you to sign up for alerts for your area. Just go to WLOS.com and search WNC Alerts.
Facing the PTSD and saying, hey, no, you're not going to control my life. You're not going to be the master of me.
Coming up, we hear from a local psychologist about Helene-related PTSD and a technique used to help first responders recover.
So we have to use historical years, look at what's happened in the past to understand what this season is going to be.
Plus, the nation's largest archive of weather and climate data is right here in Asheville. How their work helps us better understand hurricanes. Welcome back to our Preparing for Hurricane Season 2025 special report.
Many of us may be feeling more on edge than ever facing a new hurricane season after Helene.
Meteorologist Karen Wynn spoke with a local psychologist who works specifically with first responders dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder from the storm.
So a little more worried overall?
Yes, the anxiety level is probably about twice as high as it was last year at this time.
Robert Taylor moved to Western North Carolina from Florida in 2019. He's been through several hurricanes, but nothing like Helene.
Here it was much more intense because of the geography. And I think that causes added anxiety, especially this upcoming hurricane season, now that people have experienced it firsthand.
Renee Shinlau's son was only 3 months old when Helene hit.
It was really difficult trying to figure out how to make sure he was fed, not having clean water, bathing him.
Dr. Keith Cox is a psychologist and a professor at UNC Asheville. He's been researching post-traumatic stress disorder since 2009 and working with first responders for the past 5 years.
There are some, just absolutely gut-wrenching stories, some gut-wrenching experiences with Helene.
They were in the water, having to pull people out of the water, rescuing them when family members weren't able to be rescued. So having to physically pull them out of the water and also having to console them immediately afterwards.
Dr. Cox says most people's anxiety is not full-on PTSD and often resolves over time. However, in cases where therapy is needed, treatment often works well, especially in first responders.
With Helene PTSD, we've already finished some of our cases, some of our PTSD cases. Like, they've come in, we've gotten treatment, they've improved, they've gone back out the door and are serving the community again.
Dr. Cox says sometimes a treatment involves revisiting the scene of the trauma.
Literally go there. Like, if there's a place that you've been avoiding, you can go there. And you can move into the feelings that evokes and move through those feelings and get to the other side. Instead of having PTSD and trauma own them, they start to own the story again.
Dr. Cox says there are some mindsets to avoid.
We don't want to have a story out there that everybody's fragile all the time. Because I think that's one thing that's kind of in the water right now culturally that's not helpful.
Both Robert and Renee say they're dealing with their anxiety by being proactive.
If I choose to stay through a hurricane, I will definitely have a generator this year. I also pay more attention to the trees that are near my property.
We have friends about a couple hours away, so we just have a plan that if we need to evacuate, we can stay with them.
We can heal and move forward.
Karen Wynn, News 13.
Every bit of that has changed, and our model's been calibrated to 30 plus years of data on those rivers, and they're different now.
Big changes after Helene, now raising some concerns among experts. What they are saying about the river flooding danger still ahead. Helene not only changed lives, but it also changed the landscape in western North Carolina. And that creates a number of new challenges when the next flood comes. Take a look. Rivers and streams that once flowed through narrow valleys and ditches now look more like small canyons, thanks to the extreme power of moving floodwaters. Some have even changed their paths entirely. So when those heavy rains come again, knowing exactly where the water will go will be difficult.
It's not just one section of the stream, it's the entire system, from the headwaters in the springs, up in the hills, all the way down into the river valleys.
Matt Wilson is a hydrologist with the Lower Mississippi Valley River Forecast Center in Louisiana. The center covers river forecast in our mountains.
Every bit of that has changed, and our model's been calibrated to 30 plus years of data on those rivers, and they're different now. So it will take at least a little while for us to get honed in on what the new normal is.
That means the models he uses might not be able to predict how the river levels will react as accurately as before. On top of that, there's still debris in places along river and stream banks, and many stream gauges that were in place before Helene have either been damaged or destroyed.
We did lose quite a few gauges on the river network in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee during Helene, and we're slowly getting those gauges back online.
But even that comes with its challenges.
You got to have either a bridge or a road down in one of these valleys, and it's just, you can't put the gauge in the middle of nowhere. People have to be able to get to it. It has to be able to be serviced. There's the connectivity issue of, if we put the gauge there, how do we get the data back out of it? Because there's not cell service, so we can't hook it up to the cell network.
And without that constant monitoring, some water levels will be difficult to impossible to determine, at least for now. But all of the data collected from Helene will be put to good use.
With our flood inundation mapping, we've taken Helene into it, and we've it will be the new core set of data for this area of western North Carolina.
And over time, better modeling of river and stream beds will eventually make future flood forecasts more accurate, but that could be years away.
If you've never seen something before, it's hard to figure out how to model it. So, unfortunately, sometimes, for some areas, we have to see some of these events first.
Heading into the 2025 hurricane season, the National Hurricane Center is using a few new tools to better communicate inland threats and increase lead time to prepare ahead of tropical systems.
The message is to find your trusted sources of information and make sure you know how to get the information you need to keep yourself safe in the event that you are threatened again.
The National Hurricane Center will continue to use its experimental version of the cone graphic rolled out last August.
This is actually an example of the cone from Helene last year that shows the inland extent of the tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings all the way from Florida up into western North Carolina.
For the 2025 season, NHC will start issuing products for potential tropical cyclones. These are systems that have not yet become a tropical depression or a tropical storm, but could bring hazards to land areas in 2 to 3 days.
For high confidence, high impact scenarios like Helene last year, we'll be able to push that forecast information out at an extended lead time.
This could provide additional lead time out as much as 3 days in advance for a storm that's developing in the Gulf, Caribbean, or Western Atlantic that could bring impacts to your area in just a few days.
People need to be ready. They need to prepare as if it's going to be a busy season for them.
And while there may be more tools available this hurricane season, there's concern there may be fewer resources available. FEMA has cut thousands of employees under the Trump administration. It has also reduced training programs for state and local emergency managers. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has also faced staffing cuts heading into the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. National Weather Service Director Ken Graham recently addressed the cuts at the NOAA press conference in Louisiana.
We have some folks go, and but we're going to make sure that we have everything that we have on the front lines. Every warning is going to go out.
And just this week, NOAA announced it had received a temporary reprieve from the federal government's widespread hiring pause and will begin filling mission-critical field positions to help during hurricane season. NOAA says it is also filling field office positions left vacant after cuts by reassigning staff, including some temporary hires. Well, the cuts at NOAA this year include positions at the National Centers for Environmental Information, based right here in Asheville. But as News 13 meteorologist Julia Haley reports, the important work at the center continues.
Asheville is home to the nation's largest archive of weather and climate data, with information dating back to the Founding Fathers. The National Centers for Environmental Information, or NCEI, is a federal facility headquartered right here in Asheville. Their work shapes how emergency managers, researchers, and even journalists understand hurricanes.
All of the world's weather and climate data is housed right here in Asheville in our building. And we use all of that historical data to help us understand what's going to happen with future storms. So, hurricanes, there's not that many of them in time, so we have to use historical years, look at what's happened in the past to understand what this season is going to be.
Carl Schreck's work turned personal during Hurricane Helene.
I saw the forecast that we were going to get 10 to 15 inches of rain. I knew that the center of the storm was going to come near us and that we were going to have heavy winds. Never crossed my mind that we were going to lose cell phone service. Never crossed my mind that we were going to be without water.
Helene's impacts overwhelmed infrastructure. Now, its aftermath is fueling continued wildfire risks.
That threat is going to be with us for months or even years to come. It's going to take a while for those trees to decay. So in addition to worrying about future hurricanes coming through, we still have to keep an eye on that wildfire threat, especially anytime that it gets dry or windy.
Looking forward, whether it's flooding, wind, or fire, preparation is key.
Be prepared to know in advance. The earlier you can start preparing, the better off you're going to be.
As the 2025 hurricane season approaches, NCEI's work remains essential, turning past storms into future protection powered by data from right here in Asheville. That data is public at ncei.noaa.gov.
By having a preparedness kit, you can have the supplies and put all of that decision-making process out of the way because you've already done it ahead of time. It's like one less thing to think about in a stressful situation.
During Helene, many of us faced the possibility of evacuation. Same with recent wildfires. How one plastic bin packed with essential supplies can get you out the door faster when seconds count.
Even before the first named storm of this hurricane season, there are things you can do now to be ready.
Emergency officials say they saw a lot of people caught unprepared for the emergencies they faced not only during but after Helene. One of them in Henderson County shared her recommendations about essential items that we should have at the ready, but also practical things that you should keep on hand. Think of it as a go kit. You pack a large plastic bin with crucial documents and supplies ahead of time so you can grab it and go the moment you're faced with leaving home. You'll want to stock it for at least 3 days, and you'll want to start with an item essential for life.
And an important thing is to have enough water. So 1 gallon per person per day. And that also includes pets. You want to make sure you add pets into that calculation.
Second on the list, medications and eyeglasses. If you have babies, formula and diapers, and older adults have similar needs. You'll want to pack some non-perishable human food and pet food. And remember to stock canned goods with a pop top or pack a can opener. When power and water are out.
So having disinfectant wipes, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, trash bags for all this stuff, that's a really great idea, as well as disposable plates, cutlery, paper towels, because you don't know when you might be able to wash dishes and you don't want to be eating off soiled dishes because that can create a whole nother problem.
Separate large Ziploc bags keep your kit organized.
And if it's a wet environment, all of your things are staying dry. Or if you then need to bag up dirty, soiled clothes or things like that, you can reuse the bags for another purpose.
Perfect. Victoria says she saw Helene evacuees without shoes and very little else. Pack a spare set of clothes, socks, and sturdy footwear.
You may need to refresh this every year, it just depends.
These kits can be used in any emergency situation, so if you add a sleeping bag or emergency blanket, it's great for severe winter weather. Remember to throw in a basic first aid kit. and you don't want to fumble around in the dark.
Having a light source is really important too. We do not suggest candles because they can become a fire hazard, but there are plenty of LED lanterns now or glow sticks that can last for 12 hours. Just making sure that these are charged up or you have extra battery for them.
Pack up a couple extra charging cords and extra batteries.
So I highly suggest that everybody invest in one of these.
Whether it's hand crank, solar, or battery powered, a weather radio can give you critical weather and news alerts.
Having old-fashioned maps, just in case your phone is not working, we don't have cell service, knowing where to evacuate, how to evacuate, this is really important.
Think of all the important contact information we have stored on our phones.
Family members' phone numbers, they're
saved to the cloud, and keep a backup written list of all of these in case your phone is left behind or damaged. Pack insurance policy documentation, copies of your IDs, bank account numbers, medical and allergy information. What other documentation is critical for you and your family? And don't forget to grab cash. Think of the preparation process as a stoplight in reverse. Green.
You're getting ready and you're going to gather all these things and have them.
Yellow.
I might go ahead and put this in my car. I'm going to contact my family members and tell them I might have to evacuate, but you know where you're going to go. You've got the things that you want to take. And then red, it's time to go. It's time to evacuate.
Nobody wants to leave home, but your life may depend on it. Prepare now for the worst and hope for the best.
All very good advice to help us get ahead of storms this hurricane season.
Absolutely, and we hope your preparations will include staying tuned to News 13 on air and online whenever tropical or severe weather threatens. Our team of meteorologists and everyone here in the newsroom will always be here with the information you need to stay safe and secure.
We want to remind you that our 2025 hurricane season special will be available on our WLOS YouTube page. Thanks for watching, and we hope we prepared you for whatever is to come this season.